We're talking about nursing, healthcare, leadership, recovery, and senior living. The show brings the best in the industry to you because it's about you. I'm Angie Graham, and we're talking about it. I am Angie Graham, and welcome to the Angie Graham podcast. Today, I am going to be talking about women in leadership, and specifically drawing off of my own experience as a leader in this organization for 16 years. When I first started with the organization leadership, I wasn't, I would say, born a leader. It is something that I had to get better at, learn about, and master, I would say, over a certain period of time. The advantage that I had is I had worked for a lot of different bosses. I had had good bosses and bad bosses, in-between bosses, mostly men bosses, a few female bosses along the way. But as I became in part of a leadership role and knew that I was going to be leading other professionals, I right away became insecure in that position because I wasn't real sure how I was going to go about getting buy-in. I knew right away that getting buy-in from my team was going to be important to my own success, and I had to figure out and master how to get buy-in. And along the way, there was plenty of mistakes to be made. But the first thing I did is I went out and I started reading leadership books. And interesting enough, 16 years ago, most of the leadership books that I read had been written by men. While still a lot of very good information within them on how to form certain standards as a leader, how to mold myself into being a leader, what they didn't really explain to me was specifically how I was going to lead other women, and specifically as a woman, how I was going to get that buy-in. So it came with a lot of mistakes along the way. First mistake, number one. If I had to say to someone who's getting into leadership, you're a woman, you're going to be leading other women, is friendships. You can't form a solid friendship and still be a solid boss at the same time. There is no doubt that you can be friendly with your employees, but at the end of the day, you're still the boss, and you're still required to hold everyone clearly and equally accountable. If the rest of your team members see that you may have, quote unquote, a favorite, then your buy-in will diminish as a leader as time goes on. Specifically, I learned this lesson, and I'll give an example. I had been working with a young woman and her leadership skills. We had a difficult go along the way. Although I was really invested in her success and I could see the potential in her, she made some significant mistakes along the way. And unfortunately, I had to write her up more than once. But because of the time I invested with her, the other leaders in my group began to see the time I was spending and assumed that she was, quote unquote, my favorite. What they didn't know is that I had written her up along the way. And as a leader, I couldn't tell them that she had been written up. But what I realized is when I invested too much of my time into one person, there are perceptions that other people can have. That taught me to ensure that I was also sharing my knowledge and my coaching evenly amongst my team. Because when they see me spending too much time, they are making assumptions. And even though it wasn't an accurate assumption, it was still a perception that I was going to have to overcome. So lesson I learned out of that is everyone is always watching. They're watching everything you do. They're watching everything you say. And when you get into a meeting with the group, everything that you say, they're saying, or they're thinking to themselves, is she talking about me? So I learned very quickly that everything I did, everything I said, and was closely being watched. So I had to ensure that whatever I presented to the team, it was in a team environment and not particularly directed to one individual. A meeting is no place to talk about one specific problem within leadership in your organization. That is a one-on-one conversation. That is what that is for. So you don't show up at a group meeting and say, well, today I really want to discuss attendance, when you only have one person on the team that may have the attendance issue. It's sending the message out that someone in the room has an attendance issue that needs to be addressed. And most often, if there's an attendance issue, most everyone's going to know about it anyway. So understanding when you have group meetings and when you have individual meetings are really important. So now that we know that all eyes are on us as a leader, how can we avoid some of the pitfalls that I encountered as a leader stepping into the role? One is maintaining a strict level of professionalism across the board. This does not mean that you can't laugh and have a good time with your team and tell jokes and still create an environment that is fun to be in, but don't cross the line with unprofessionalism. No bad jokes, dirty jokes, nothing that's going to be HR related. You just have to keep it G all the way across the board. Don't risk it because you may think someone is not going to make a complaint, but in fact, if they're looking for an opportunity to move up, then they're looking for a way to get you to step aside. So don't fall for that along the way. Don't give anyone any ammunition as a leader. It's just so much easier. I remember there were times that I met with someone and leaving and thinking, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And I was worried because of what I said. If I just followed that rule along the way, that keeping the conversation straight and across the board and not dipping into anything that's not related to work-wise. Politics, unless you work in politics, but politics was a subject to avoid. Talking about other people on the team, that's completely inappropriate. You don't discuss that with other members of your team. If they're bringing forward a complaint or wanting to make you aware, and sometimes as a leader you can get baited. What I mean by that is they'll say, well, I heard that so-and-so said so-and-so and did this to so-and-so, and they want you to then comment on what they heard. Just take the concern and say, well, thank you for letting me know, and I will address it, or whatever is appropriate. It's not appropriate for you to discuss other people on your team with other team members. As women, it's very easy to get caught up in gossip. I mean, men gossip too, let's face it, but particularly as female leaders, don't get caught up in gossip with your team. And you have to remember, you may dig into the facts, and what the facts are and what's being talked about may be two completely different things. So you don't want to get caught up in discussing any issues with someone or about someone who's on your team. They need to know that you are a neutral leader within your team. Communication is really key. This is an area that I think women, as women in leadership, are really good at, is communicating. I think we have a way of communicating better than men do. And it's just a gift that we have as women to talk and communicate and probably share our quote-unquote feelings, right? That we can talk about things and have conversations that may be difficult for men to do. So the leg up that we have is communication, and having clear communication, setting clear expectations for your team, and reiterating it often. If your team understands what your expectations are, it leaves nothing to be guessed. They just know. So communication is really key. And also good listening skills, being a very good listener. Now, those of us who have husbands, it may be one of our number one complaint about our husbands is they may not listen. Or didn't you hear me say that already? Who hasn't said that before, right? This is another area that I believe women in leadership has the ability to be a very good listener. And we tend to really remember things in conversations that we've had, but still document. It's really important as a leader to document anything that may be important so that you can circle back to it later, or also with follow-up, having good follow-up as a leader. Another real thing that women have, I believe that women can be better negotiators than men. Why do I say this? Well, I think some women look at leadership and they think, well, I have to be like a man. And this is not true at all. there's a real fine line with female leaders being too masculine, because then you get titled the B word. Masculinity in women leadership can be identified or perceived as the B word. Bothered. What else would you be thinking, right? That she is just really bothered. So you don't want, and then you're not really real approachable, right? So keep that in mind, that women in leadership, you don't need to be like a man. Be like a woman. There's nothing wrong with maintaining your feminine identity as a woman and communicating clearly what your expectations are or what you really need, even to vendors, even to salesmen, or if you're asking for the sale. Men will come in sometimes with really big egos, and women tend to come to the table with research. So keep that in mind as well. Women, we do our research, we know our customers, we know what they want, we know about their business, and we look a little more closely at details. Well, men salesmen may rely on the buddy system. This is going to be my buddy, I'm going to win them over, and the buddy system doesn't necessarily mean a better sale or a better deal. Women with our communication skills, we can come in and we can ask for what we need and what we want, and we can do it in a way that we can get the deal done. I've sat at the table many times and got exactly what I asked for, but I knew going into the meeting what I wanted, and I knew how to ask for it, and we just ironed it out. I had done my homework. I had got other quotes from other vendors. I knew what I wanted, and I set the expectation with the vendor right away. So negotiating skills, we do have them, and you just can't be afraid to communicate. Again, it's all about communication. Now today, being in the leadership role and the president of organization and being here now for 10 years, I can tell you that 10 years ago, I was a different leader than I am today. Today, I take all those 10 years of experience, and now this past year, we're already almost through this year, and it's another year of experience. And with time, I often reflect. Take time to reflect about your leadership. Take time to reflect on how you have progressed. Are you growing? Are you bored? Oftentimes we are in a leadership role and we can get bored. Bored means we're not growing. We're stagnant. And so continue with your growth and continue to work on that and build your presence. You know, it wasn't so many years ago that women couldn't even get a mortgage without her husband. And even now today, when you look at the women CEOs in business, men still outnumber women. Now, we are seeing a change in that. The Fortune 500 companies, we're seeing more women in leadership, but we haven't really made it yet. And keep in mind that we are forging the way for the daughters and the granddaughters that are going to be up and coming. A really, really important thing for me in my role has been presentation and how I present myself. Self-care has been really important to me because if I go to the negotiating table, I'm dressed my best, I look the best, I feel like I have a leg up because I'm walking into the room with confidence. I'm sitting straight in the chair, sitting up, and I know exactly what I'm going to ask for. So keeping in mind that female professionals, especially in leadership roles, there is an expectation that we maintain a certain level of attractiveness and take care of ourselves. This study was done by the University of California, Irvine, where they interviewed 14,000 leaders, and they discovered that people that had attractiveness and maintained their personal appearance made 20% more in salary than people that didn't maintain that. And specifically in women that wore makeup and dressed professionally in the workplace made 20% more than women that did not. So although we want to go to work and we think, I just want to be comfortable, or I got up late and I'm just going to go, I guess it depends. If you're really comfortable with where you're at and you're not trying to go anywhere else, you're probably just fine. But if you want to climb the ladder and get somewhere, you have to make the effort to look the part and, I guess, put a little lipstick on. That's what they say. I didn't say that, but that's what the study has told us. So while we have come a long way with women in the workplace and in leadership, there are still expectations on us to what a professional leading woman should look like. So keep that in mind as well. And I enjoy self-care and taking care of myself. It feels good. So while we're balancing families and life and all the other things that are on our shoulders as women, don't forget to take care of yourself, especially if you're looking to move up in the workplace. It's going to be a really important part of who you are as a leader, and it will help you get to the next step. So don't forget to really take care of yourself and look the part. Well, thank you today for joining me, and we will talk again soon.